I think we'll... Morena, as we begin what is the second Community Wellbeing Committee meeting for this triennium of Council, I warmly welcome you all and invite you to join me in karakia as we begin the meeting. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e he aki ana a tahatugara, he hu, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ona. Kia ora. It's my pleasure again to welcome you all. Thank you for being here. Delighted to see you all. I am going to begin with apologies. We have apologies this morning from Mayor Burneef. We have apologies from Paul McMillan from MSG, from Rebecca Kinlock of Kainga Ora, and from Jackie Moynihan from Oranga Tamariki, but in her place I'd like to warmly welcome Sarah Elliott. Welcome, Sarah. And I have a note in front of me to just check with you all right now that our next meeting date is 26th of August. So, and also to check that your registration details are correct on the form at the door as you come in. I am not sure that there are any late items. Are there any late items that people had intended? No, we've not been notified of any late items for the agenda today. And given that this is not a decision-making committee, however, there are some recommendations we'll be taking. I wanted to just test that anybody felt they had a conflict of interest they would like to declare to the committee. Thank you. No. And do you have in front of you the unconfirmed minutes of the previous Community Wellbeing Committee? I'm not sure if people have had a chance to look at those, but I've had a look through and to me they appear to be a true and correct record of that meeting. And nobody holds an alternate view. Fantastic. I will move, and is there a seconder? Kylie, thank you, Kylie. There is one announcement that I will make following on from those minutes, and it is a statement that we received from Anthony Young, who is the chair of Horowhenua Trust. And I'll actually read from his announcement to us, and it's really just for noting. We won't take a discussion on it. Horowhenua New Zealand Trust confirms that Project Lift will not be progressing with the Social Investment Agency at this time. While this is not an outcome we had hoped for, we are proud of the work that went into developing Project Lift and grateful to the many schools, community organisations, iwi and stakeholders who contributed their time, insight and support. Project Lift was shaped in response to the real challenges facing children, young people in whānau and horowhenua. These challenges remain, and so does our commitment to working alongside our community to provide practical, locally led solutions. We thank the Social Investment Agency for its engagement during the process, and we would like to sincerely thank everyone who helped shape Project Lift and supported the vision behind it. Horowhenua New Zealand Trust remains committed to continuing conversations with community partners about future opportunities to support better outcomes for our district. I read that statement out because we did take a note in the previous meeting of Community Wellbeing to invite Project Lift, a representative from Project Lift to this committee, but that will not be occurring now. So just as a note, and I don't believe, is there any other commentary about that, or we're happy just to take that as an announcement? Thank you. We will. So let's move on now to item on our agenda 5.1, which is a recommendation for a community safety forum, or a proposal for a community Safety Forum. And I want to just skip back and acknowledge those who join us on live stream, the media and people who sit in the public today, in particular Ted Melton, who is very interested in the item that sits before us. I'm going to hand over now to Mark to introduce this item and speak to it. Thank you, Mark.
Kia ora koutou, and thank you, Councillor Mason, and for you. This is a pretty exciting paper. It's a decision paper for the committee to discuss and make a recommendation that will go up to council for formal adoption. This concept has been discussed for some time, and thank you, Councillor Mason, for your acknowledgement of Mr. Melton, who has, from the Crime Prevention Camera Trust, signalled an interest in establishing a Horowhenua safety forum. It aligns really well with the Community Wellbeing Strategy that has been adopted by Council. It sits as one of the actions. So this paper is somewhat procedural, but an exciting decision if the committee intend to move the recommendation in the sense of establishing a safety forum, but also appointing Councillor Mitchell Kotab as chair of the forum, which has strong alignment given that Councillor Mitchell Kotab sits on our Community Wellbeing Committee, but is also the councillor representative who sits alongside the Camera Trust. And through you, Councillor Mason, I just implore the committee to have a look at the suggested agencies and organisations and community groups that have been identified by officers, and they're also on the screen, and then over to the table for conversation. But that's all, and I'm happy to take any questions, of course, if there are any.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for introducing that report, and I do invite questions or commentary from members of the committee, and in particular to have a good look at that list that sits there before us, and just identify if there's anyone further that we could invite to attend these. I believe they're twice yearly forums, and then they would feed back into a report to community wellbeing. So it may not be immediately obvious today that we've missed anyone off the list, but it might come to you in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. And you will make a note and come back to us. But we're happy to take discussion or questions or comments now for this item.
Just as one of the agencies obviously listed here, Department of Corrections, just to report that we're really supportive of this forum. Although we do work closely with other agencies, obviously, that are on the list as well. I think this will be a more focused setting that we're working in. Normally we might be working in the family harm space or whatever, but this, I think, provides us with a broader aspect, I suppose, and a bit of a lens in terms of what's actually happening in our community spaces more, plus gives us an opportunity to network and collaborate more. I mean, we know that funding is always an issue wherever you are, whether you're a government agency or an organisation or community group, obviously, you know. So this will be quite helpful, I think, to Horowhenua as a whole, and we welcome this. I'd actually like to move the recommendations if you want to move her at this point.
Thanks, Lee. I will accept that movement. I'll just check if there's any other commentary around the table before we take the bold move of accepting this with your endorsement, Lee. Is there any other feedback or questions or commentary?
And I just think in terms of the groups that we have, you know, entered here, I mean, I'm sure there's room for expansion if we discover along the way that, oops, we've missed somebody out, or there's another group that starts up in Horowhenua. So I'm sure it would be, moving.
Great. Right. Sarah.
Morena, tēnā koe motukariki e tēnā ta. We noticed that there was no church representation or faith-based representation for consideration. and no southern end of district representation. So for Manukau, Oho, those sorts of isn't to capture there is maybe something for consideration.
We will take a note of those and consider them as part of the makeup of that forum and reach out to those areas. Thank you. Okay, so the recommendations that we have before us are that the committee endorses the establishment of Horowhenua Community Safety Forum, that the committee approves the appointment of Councillor Mitchell Kataba as chair of the Horowhenua Community Safety Forum, and that the committee endorses the participation of key agencies, organisations and community groups outlined in paragraph 14 of this report in the Horowhenua Community Safety Forum, noting that there has been a question posed and the feedback about who else we can inform. Lee, are you happy to move those on block? Is there a seconder? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any alternate views? Right, we'll take that as the conclusion of that item of the agenda. And I know we acknowledge Ted. I want to acknowledge Ted for his work in advocating strongly for this and for bringing this to the attention of community wellbeing and tirelessly championing this group to be established, and acknowledge the work that is done by the Crime Prevention Camera Trust in terms of creating a safer community, which is one of the pillars that community wellbeing has identified as a priority over this part of the triennium. So thank you, Ted, for being here today to hear this piece of work be endorsed, but also for what you do in the background. We appreciate that very much. Kia ora. Okay, we move on now to item 5.2 of the agenda, and this is the Community Wellbeing Committee Priority Safe and Connected Community Report that I'll again hand over to Mark to introduce and speak to, and again invite your thought and questions once we've had the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Mason, and for you. Just for context, I guess, for the committee and for those who are unaware of the last meeting we presented, officers presented a direction of travel report that would essentially assist the committee in having some core focus at each meetings. You'll already feel, hopefully, that this meeting has a safe and connected vibe or theme to it, and this report essentially speaks to that. I would encourage for you, Councillor Mason, that this is an opportunity for the committee to each discuss where organisations or agencies are working together around connection and safety. The report in particular lists a bunch of actions that are underway, both from a council perspective, but also as a community-led space. I would encourage the committee to look at page 18 in particular, paragraph 17, where there are some questions, and on the screen as well, about the role of CWC, and allow the committee to create space to have those conversations about what each agency are doing. And of course, for you, Councillor Mason, if there are questions of officers, we will do our absolute best to answer those.
Thank you, Mark. And so that leads us to a chance for each of your organisations around the table to give us a brief update or speak to any of the matters that are before us here in this agenda item, or update us on work that you're doing or work that is going on within your agencies. And I don't know if we want to step around the table. Perhaps we'll just step around the table and take some brief updates, and we'll begin with you, Amajit. And I think there are some people who are not first time at the committee, so just a brief introduction and then, yeah, thank you.
Kia ora koutou, Amajit Maxwell, Takawengawa. I'm Chief Executive of Think Whole Water Primary Health Organisation that covers the Mid-Central District, including Horowhenua, and goes as far down as Otaki, but over to Danneberg as well. In terms of our organisation, many of you may be aware that the government is still working through policy updates and kind of future direction for primary health organisations. I'm very lucky with our strong board that it's the message of business as usual, support our community, support our whānau in terms of providing that primary and community care and build those strong connections with organisations like those around this table, so that whānau are actually getting the services that they need. But we're definitely not under any illusion that health is in a lot of turbulence, with our general practitioners, with our hospital health services, and we are seeking to strengthen that integration. But we talked earlier about the grassroots element, and a lot of the answers are in our grassroots in terms of how we connect better, so that any door is the right door for whānau. But we will be hoping to present to this committee next time round, so that we can bring our newly launched strategy, which is generally again, that business as usual population health approach, but it allows us to bring that vision of our set by our board in terms of connecting communities for well-being, or hauora. So we'd really like that opportunity to share more deeply, and also really lean into that takiwa, that place-based approach of actually how do we take that collective impact approach and build on what's already here, because I hear around this table how strong the communities are and the community organisations. So I think how we can hold a stronger place in that is something we want to take forward. So yes, but in terms of this mahi, I think largely it is keeping that flow of communication so we can share the messages with our whānau through our channels as well, and just having a seat at the table to input into it. So I think is there anything specific other than more general? Probably not at this point. But I think this committee does have a strong role in the safe and connected communities. It ripples through everything. So yeah, we certainly want to be part of that corridor. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I could go on all day, but I'm better not.
Kia ora koutou. Tautoko, what you just said captures everything I was thinking as well. I'm Maggie Regan from Department of Internal Affairs, based up in Palmy. Our Palmy office covers the Horizons boundary, but I look after Horowhenua. We're in a bit of a state of flux at the moment. The branch I'm in is under a service review, as well as the Lottery Grants Board disestablished at the end of April all their lottery funding streams. So we're just in a state of flux, but for me it's important to be still seen in the community, connecting and hearing the conversation. So when the New Look branch that I'm in and the New Look lottery is stood up on the 1st of July, we can hit ground running and not missing anything, sort of thing. So yeah, so it's an interesting time, trying to put a positive spin on it, that there's going to be some amazing opportunities for us as DIA people, but the community, and also with the New Look of the Lottery Grants Board. So kia ora. Kia ora koutou, ko Kylie tunu whenua Tapsel tōku ingoa, he uri hau no Ngāti Rongo mai wahine me Ngai Tūhoi. I'm a General Manager at Sport Manawatu. Reflecting on the questions for committee today and through the report, I think one of the areas I keep coming back to is, we're doing some stuff in there, and the visibility of it probably isn't as open as I'd love it to be. So I think there's some real opportunity here for us to, alongside the key actions for the community, which council and key partners have done really amazing work in. I think there could be a little bit more visibility from the other organisations and the contributions we're making to these spaces to help maybe piece that together a bit more, and then also figure out where some of those gaps might be. The opportunity to collaborate on key issues that are affecting our hapori are probably the area that I'd love to see us focus in a little bit more around as well. Is there one or two things that we really want to knock out of the park to get across the line? And I think there's probably some really good crossovers at the moment in terms of conversations, priorities, and areas of work that we could be doing, as a collective and as a committee to support. I know we've got our forums, which is brilliant, and that ability to connect and network there, as well as shape pieces of work. just maybe might just need that little bit more, feeling like we need that connection through a little more around how does this forum support better access, advocacy, and resources into some of these areas that we're working into. So yeah, I'd love to support in that space as well.
Kia ora, my name is Lee McMeekin and I'm here representing Community Corrections, probation, for want of a better name I suppose that we call ourselves and live in. Our core business obviously is to manage people who have offended and have been sentenced or released from prison in the community. And this is really important to us, safe and connected community, because for us it's about often reintegrating our people back into the community, and they may have been in prison for a number of years. So it's actually quite a big task, I suppose, and a big responsibility that we share with our community. It's always great, I think, we can improve on safety outcomes if we embrace people and help them to move forward in life, and that's what we're all about, rehabilitation, reintegration, and working with our service providers and other government agencies for better outcomes for our people and for the community, because if there's better outcomes for our people, there is better outcomes for the community is safer. We also work with employers. We have a dedicated employment person who looks at goes and talks to employers with an aim toward getting our people into job placements, because that's all about getting people on track and making them a part of our space, I suppose. We also, our connections with the community, we have community work. People who are on community work go out and work in the community for not-for-profit organisations and help out, like mowing, the lawns for Mariah's and things like that. So we're actually part of the community. We're probably a little bit of a hidden part of the community, but we are there, and certainly support what the committee's doing in terms of being a safe and connected place. Yeah.
Kia ora koutou, ko Biri Lui ko toko ingoa no Ngāti Raukau. I'm the CEO for Raukau Whānora. I guess it's business as usual, even though there's many challenges that we face, as we know, whether it's primary care, health, education, and the list goes on. So we've pretty much been pushing through, those challenges just kind of behind the scenes, I guess, so we deliver health, education and social services for rangatahi all the way through to kaumātua. We do pride ourselves, right, on having strong relationships with our different communities. So we're always looking for opportunities to grow our hora whenua community, from rangatahi all the way through to kaumātua. We like to work with others to try and, one, identify the gap, and two, try and close up that gap as close as we can. We have been successful opening up paramedic nurse-led clinics within our communities, and we opened one. It's been over a year now. We worked with our local GPs, and that's to support our GPs and reduce their pressure on after hours services. And now we're about to open one not too far away in Shannon, and we've already established one in Fielding. So that's been quite a big, significant piece of work that we've undertaken. But that's like the centre of our whānora centre. So we provide the primary care, and then it just opens up to whānora services where we can support whānau outside of the GP, because we know that our whānau have multiple challenges, not just being sick. And so, we look forward to, we've got a few projects coming up. I'll just tap this fella next to me. But yes, so we'd like to probably come and have a discussion probably with Mark, maybe, on a project that we're thinking for rangatahi. And Te Mataka Hoki will know about it. So kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, Patrick Rinell, I'm the CEO at Te Punawhai Mātauranga, but I'm here representing Education Horowhenua. We met last week, so just a couple of updates from that meeting. Look, we've adjusted our Education Horowhenua meetings from 7 to 4 a year to align with this Community Wellbeing Committee. We just feel that gives us more time to work through some of the things. Look, last week we had a presentation from the attendance service who delivered to us that currently 46.2% of our students in the Horowhenua are meeting that 90% attendance rate, which is 22% below the national average, so we've got work to do. And what's interesting is coming out from their report is that the main barrier to attendance these days is actually parents not seeing the value in education. It's not so much the students themselves, but the parents not valuing education. So part of what Community Wellbeing is going to be doing over the next few months is developing a new education strategy. We're looking for 2 to 3 strategic pillars for us to focus on. Obviously, one of those is likely to be education, or the value of education messaging. But if there are other things that members of the committee think, well, actually that would be really good for Education Horowhenua, which represents education right across the board from early childhood all the way through to ourselves at tertiary education level. Please, through Emma, I think would be the easiest way. If you could send us some information, we'll build that strategy over the next couple of months. Little nuts and bolts stuff, maths curriculum is the thing that down in year 8 is the massive challenge. You will have all heard that we're changing our maths curriculum. It's a good thing, but what it does is it brings a lot of challenge for those year 8s and 9s as they're working through, and that's creating a few issues. And then I guess I'd just like to celebrate some success for a change. Over the first quarter of 2026, the region's NEET rate dropped by 3% down to 16.4%. Those are our young people not in education, training or employment. That's a pretty significant drop in one quarter, and really goes back to the work being done by Ministry of Social Development, perhaps ourselves, if I can blow our own trumpet, and Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. So obviously we've got a little bit of work to do to keep it trending that way, but it is a pretty important positive message for what's happening in the region. And part of that is also down to the O2NL Legacy Outcomes team. I'm not sure if people know what that is, but within the O2NL project, there's a Legacy Outcomes team that's focused on around about 85 apprenticeships over the 5-year period of the development. Their job is to make sure that the ākonga and rangatahi that we put into that program actually work through. And ourselves at Te Punawhai Mātauranga have just sponsored what's called a Workplace Success Advisor within partnership with the O2NL team, because we know, as you do, that first 6 months is critical. So when somebody comes out of college or goes into their job for the first time, if we can keep them there for 6 months, generally after that it will stick. So an important partnership that will carry on through the 5 years. And therefore for your wider network, because I've heard some of you talking about employment outcomes, etc., I'd encourage you to reach out to O2NL Legacy Outcomes, understand what they're doing, because there is pathways there for people to work through. I think that's enough from me.
Kia ora tātou, ko Simon Kweti tēnei no te Pupu Tribal Authority. Tautuhi ngā whakaaro te committee nei. Very similar space for us in the Pupu Tribal Authority. Service provision obviously been impacted by funding and all the things that go with that. But we're managing in that space and still hoping to provide that level of connection in partnership with our fellow agencies and our other partners in health and social services. So that doesn't change for us. I think for us as a door and for our people into the community as a connection point, that's what we'll look to maintain that. I think safe and connected communities. I was just looking at it, I was thinking, I think safety is an outcome of a connected community. And the more that we can address connection issues as opposed to dealing directly with safety as a symptom of things that don't happen when we are connected, that might be a really good place to be focusing. We do know that there are gaps, particularly when we're busy agencies and we have busy providers, but we're working pretty hard amongst each other to maintain those connections and build them as we work through some of the murky waters that are in front of us at the moment over the next little while. I would like to see actions come from this committee, I think we've looked and we've talked about a few things. It would be nice to be able to influence how we maintain connection and create new connections. I think that should be the role of this committee in this space. I would like to see that, but otherwise continue to keep connected. We've got some good news stories too. The Te Paia Tauranga project, otherwise known as O2NL, depending on which site you're sitting on, can not only open doors for our people, but is currently doing so. So we've had some really good outcomes already in the last couple of weeks. We've had people placed from our services who are going to work within Te Paia Tauranga, and they're in that legacy outcomes piece. So really nice to see that, and we have our own people working within that project, as does Tūmata Kahuki, who are navigating people through that constantly. So navigation and connection always going to be at the centre of what we do. So let's keep connected. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā tātou. My name is Neville Heihei. I'm the Te Tīmata Kahuki Navigator, working with HDC. So I was just looking at that first question up there, and I think over the years, me and Marae have had different events. One of the latest ones, of course, is Simon's other Ngati Raukawa side, and that's at Kikopiri, and they had what do you call it? It was a gala, yeah. And in the gala, so they invited the whole of the Oahu community to come and sell their wares and actually be part of the day. What I did hear from that is it made that connection between the wider community and Kikopiri Marae itself. You know, so usually Marae are viewed as a place to be scared of for some reason or another. If you haven't been onto a marae, they definitely broke the mold, you know, which was awesome. I can talk about another one at Mato Marae. So we had there was a rangatahi program, and they all came together. It was a couple of weekends ago, and that reconnected those families that have been away from our marae for a number of years. That was very successful as well, and it was enjoyable. Everyone enjoyed it, you know, and loved it. So in regards to being the safety side of things, you know, it's more about the hinengaro, you know, so they're reconnecting back to their marae and them feeling safe and the wider community to not be scared to go onto the marae. Again, over the years, me and marae have done many things that have, and we continue to do that. And that's a good way, I think, that if this committee could support that in any way, it would be fantastic. Yeah. I agree with everyone that's spoken so far. Man, great results. You know, this committee has done a lot. Our separate organisations have done a lot. It's fantastic. You know, and we still strive to move forward. Even like our kaumātua at the back there, all the work that he has done, you know, for our community, he needs a medal. This committee's offering something anyway. Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Kia ora, Mike Fletcher, Leader Vice Regional Public Service. We're not one agency, so we work across the sector. So our role is at a systems leadership level across government agencies, making sure that agencies are connected with each other, understand what it is that they need to do to meet government priorities, but also needs of communities, and that agencies are participating in the areas that they should be participating in at a local level. I agree with Kylie. I think there's a lot of good work that's being done. It happens day to day, and we don't always trumpet that, so I think that there are more opportunities to share things that we are doing that actually connect with the aims of Horowhenua, for example, the Community Wellbeing Committee. There's projects that we cover the whole of the Horizons regional area, so kind of work across different communities, and in all of those communities I think we're doing some really good stuff working with agencies and communities on specific projects. Patrick, in terms of attendance, we've been working with Education, Sport Manawatu and others in specific schools in Palmerston North, and we feel that collectively we've made a difference in attendance. We focused on chronic non-attendance and have been able to put some things in place and kind of see the increase in attendance and that, so happy to see how we might be able to support Education Horowhenua and just some of the things down here. In terms of community safety, one of the things that we were just talking about in a regional leaders hui that I was on just before I came into here was about the connections with agencies in terms of information and sharing. And one of the things that has come out of death reviews, unfortunately, is that agencies hold a piece of the puzzle, and when it's shared what they did know, if they had shared that information, then probably things would have been a different result. So we're looking to get some very skilled people that have been working in the area, working with the Privacy Commissioner in terms of the updated guidance, to get them to come to our community tables where all the agencies and iwi and community meet around various safety and opportunities to be connected, to effectively share that information and be safe to share that information, which obviously helps then in terms of connection and safety. So we're hoping that we'll be able to have a number of workshops around the area that will bring, maybe the SAMS table and the attendance table and others together, that will just allow them to confidently contribute and share information. That will help those whānau in need to be able to be connected to the services, that where needs are identified, that it's not just held by one agency, but they feel able, where there's safety concerns and well-being issues, to share that across the table in a safe and confident way, so that we can kind of address some of those issues. So yeah, just probably lots of other general stuff, but just kind of, I guess, how we're contributing as regional public service to make sure that yes, agencies are connected, that they do feed into what it is that they should be doing, and if they're not, then through my boss, the Regional Public Service Commissioner, Darling Rasrick, then we have some ability, I guess, to guide people to the table so they are contributing. Thanks.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Beth Purcell. I'm Prevention Manager for local Horowhenua Police. Most of you will be aware that a major call for service for us is family harm. And I just want to say how well supported actually the response to calls for service is by the agencies and organisations that do work with our families. There's much better engagement than there has been in recent years, and I can say that with some confidence that there has been a reduction in the seriousness of the types of offending that has occurred So I just want to put it out there. Thank you to everyone that does their bit to help this. Most people would have seen too that in recent days there's new stalking legislation, which is going to give us some really good processes to follow to address any stalking behaviour for people. It'll be helpful for both victims and offenders. The victims, so they know that there is a real clear path to promote their safety, and for offenders to know, keep doing this and there's accountability. Probably one of the greatest challenges that we have today and going into the future is how our local police can match the growth of the area. We have O2NL bringing more people in, we have Tara Ika being developed. So for some reason, Horowhenua and Levin are not seen as ideal places for people to come, either to be recruited to or to promote to. So this is a huge challenge for us. I mean, we live in a really diverse community for a start, and we need local people to be here who are invested in our community, who are going to stay in our community, who want to help promote the safety of our community to be here. So we are really looking and reaching out to anyone who can help us stimulate local interest in having people come in, recruit or promote to this area. So I'm putting it out there, anyone who's got ideas, we're interested in learning them. Because sometimes you need different perspectives, you need people who know someone who might be interested, and yeah, if it gets us to the numbers we can to serve our community and promote our community safety, all the better. Thank you, Councillor.
Morena koutou, tēnei te mihi kia koutou anō. Ko hira Elliot tōku ingoa. I'm Sarah Elliott, here as the Acting Site Manager for Oranga Tamariki ki Horowhenua. Tau tōku Beth Kōrero and those around the table already this morning. I wanted to acknowledge the space here in relation to online safety for children and take it down, so bringing that lens across for our tamariki and rangatahi, who spend a lot of time, an inordinate amount of time, in the online space and the impacts that that can have against wellbeing and the wellbeing impact into our communities in that space. So it's an area of focus for us in working in that space. And I also agree, Kylie, in relation to your comments about greater visibility and ensuring that the mahi and the opportunities are better seen. And I was thinking in particular around how our youth access and identify with those opportunities and potentials that we're trying to address and make available for our tamariki and youth in that space. Thinking in particular that we as an agency intersect across the community. We have parents and caregivers who are members within the community, and then we have tamariki and rangatahi for whom we have that wider responsibility, which is leaning into most of the services alongside those that we contract and support and fund as well. But thinking about them as that next generation and what we do well now impacts our future if we're looking to have those safe, strong, thriving communities. As I said, we partner across the sector primarily, and we rely on the strength of those relationships, and I just want to acknowledge to those that we do share particularly strong relationships with, who, as Beth mentioned, when we reach out and call for support or to work in partnership, that's really well, that occurs particularly well across a diverse range of need. In our space, we have not had the ability to utilise what we refer to as family homes for our tamariki and rangatahi that need to be in one of our own homes within the Horowhenua area. We've not had that available, and we have 2 homes coming on stream very soon, so that will mean that rangatahi and tamariki here will not have to live externally from their rohi and they'll be able to be maintained and sustained within our community, and that means staying closer to whānau, which is always better. And also to acknowledge the same space for us around employment and recognising the region as being a desirable place to come and live and work. So again, as we think about the uplift and how we represent wellbeing and the connectedness, then helps for us in terms of being able to recruit the right people and the people who want to live here and support the kaupapa around our tamariki mangatahi for the future. Kia ora.
Can I thank you all? I don't think I expected such a fulsome and comprehensive and enlightening update when I invited you all to speak and to speak to the conversation around safety and our community. The theme that came through that I observed was the perception of our communities, the vital importance of connection in our communities, and the vital importance of strong relationships. And those are foundations that we can build outcomes of safety, as was noted. Can I acknowledge that by focusing resourcing on where we can have impact, as Education Whanau have done, I acknowledge that and total that. And I wonder if through some of the thread of what I'm hearing, if the committee might have, and officers might jump on me for this, but if the committee might have a role, it's something I've thought of for a long time, in producing perhaps a prospectus of hora whanua that could be used by organisations. Some time ago when I was in early times on council, we had talked about and we created a video to encourage health professionals here, and it might be timely to think about that and update that. So that's a really important piece of feedback that's come through, and I will hand over to Mark in a minute to summarise, because I know officers have been furiously taking minutes and notes, and we'll have some commentary. But just in terms of this report, and just want to acknowledge that Ned Burney and I had the chance to meet with police and discuss recent crime statistics, and appreciate the opportunity to have feedback and your feedback again today, Beth, and that I also sit on the Regional Transport Forum, and we have been strongly advocating for public transport, and we know that that's a difficulty within Horizons around funding, but that doesn't stop us wanting more, particularly for rangatahi, who are, I think, disadvantaged by a lack of regular public transport. So that's a position I hold strongly to, and that I want to acknowledge Horizons Regional Council, who with changes to legislation around to the total mobility funding, they committed to keep their level of subsidisation the same and not to reduce it. So therefore there is a small market increase for users of total mobility, but that Horizons have voted to keep that impact as low as they possibly can. So total mobility has, it's further on in the report, has high user group in our area. So I will speak to that a little later, but thank you so much for your feedback and commentary, and I'll hand over to Mark to summarise that, and then we will take the recommendations of accepting this report. Mark.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. I'm going to try my absolute best, because I agree with your statement that, really fulsome conversation around the table. I suppose as officers we want to make sure that we take things away and create some action, and there was some really good conversation around the table. Just some notes that I've got that I think we can easily take away was that piece around transport. There's a common conversation about connectivity, and when we get people connecting across our district, we know that creates a sense of place and belonging and greater community outcomes for all. And so we will go away and give that some thought around our continued conversations that we know our elected members also having with their Horizons Regional Council colleagues. And I do, Neville and Simon, I think there is a really neat conversation in that piece around marae and that sense of safe sense of place and belonging. And we've only got to look at, I suppose, times of crisis when there's a road accident, civil defence emergency. We rely on our marae, and I love that corridor personally around the gala, which is a really good example of changing that perception. And I think there's a piece of work that we could probably take offline and see how we can support our iwi hapu partners to create those safe spaces. There's obviously a common trend around funding, and that will be a continued conversation. Officers will also go away and look at what are those further opportunities to connect, making sure that we can get that better engagement across organisations. This committee has only just now adopted to and establish a safety forum, which I think is a really good first step in terms of an action. And I think that safety forum on their first meeting with Councillor Mitchell Kotab as chair, be able to have some of the conversation that's had around this table, and therefore what those agencies can do. And the last couple of pieces that stood out for officers was around sharing those good news stories. We've got around the table now. I'm mindful that we've got some media in the room to make sure that we are telling those stories, whether it's the little things, but making sure that they do get the spotlight they deserve within our community. And just finally, that bit around marketing Horowhenua as a place to come and play, live and work. And I think it's a piece of work that, as council, we've got a destination umbrella, and then actually what does that element look like as well, to make sure that we do promote destination as a district. So for you, Councillor Mason, I hope there was a lot there, but I've tried my best to summarise some, and officers will take some stuff offline and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. We look forward to the actions that have stemmed from that discussion. So the recommendation is that the committee notes the work being undertaken to contribute to building a safe and connected Horowhenua community, that the committee contributes to a discussion about other initiatives supporting a safe and connected community that are taking place in the district, and that the committee agrees to undertake agreed actions to respond to specific challenges the community is facing. I would like to move those recommendations. Is there a seconder? Mike, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Great. Appreciate that discussion and conversation. And we move on now correctly to report 6.1, Community Wellbeing Network report, which is always a highlight for us. And I'd like to welcome Laura and her team to introduce the reports that are there. We'll take them as read, but we will also have some commentary in support of those reports. Welcome, Laura and team.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Laura Fisher. I am the Community Development Advisor here at Horowhenua District Council. Today we're a bit excited to share some of the mahi happening across our community networks, and I am very fortunate to have some of our representatives here today to give that update from their network. So we are going to switch it up a little bit and start with Keisha, because I appreciate that school's quite important, so she will start off and I'll let her introduce herself. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Keisha and thank you for having me here today on behalf of Youth Voice. Since February, the Youth Voice members and I have focused on executing our recruitment plan, which so far has been successful, which is really exciting to see. Following our meeting on March 6th, we focused on strengthening the structure and operations of Youth Council. This included recruitment for new members, role allocation, communications and planning for events. We agreed to expand membership through schools and community channels using a Google form, QR code poster and social media promotion, with a focus on increasing diversity and accessibility. We have agreed on key roles within Youth Voice, including myself as chairperson, recruitment presenters and the establishment of social media lead role with clear content guidelines. At the meeting on April 30th, we centred our discussion around upcoming awareness and celebration days. This included related social media content and promotion. The access and management of the Youth Voice social media accounts were also established. Our meetings have so far been set to move to a fortnightly schedule with dedicated time for content creation and coordination, and further work identified around finalising communications, outreach and governance for digital platforms. Our meeting on May 8th consisted of discussions and planning for New Zealand Sign Language Week and Pink Shirt Day, for which we created content and decided on fundraising event which was held on the 15th of May. For this, we hosted a Pink Shirt Day bake sale fundraiser where we raised a total of $114 for the Mental Health Foundation. The recruitment campaign has been successful with presentations completed at Horowhenua College, Waipihu College, and most recently yesterday at Manawatu College, as well as scheduled presentation at Te Puna Whai Matoranga. After reviewing Youth Voice membership recruitment responses, we discussed whether to set a limitation on numbers, and it was decided to do a next step questionnaire to sort of get an understanding of where new and current members stood with Youth Voice, and luckily results have been overwhelmingly positive. We have now grown from a group of 9 and welcomed 14 new members and counting. At the moment, I am in the process of writing up the agenda for our first June meeting, which will take place in the first week of June, where we will focus on strategizing and organizing for upcoming events such as Schools Pride Week, upcoming on June 15th to 19th, and the 40-hour famine from June 19th to the 21st. As we are approaching the 2026 halfway mark, I am hoping to encourage and empower the new Youth Voice members, and I aim to focus on bringing the ideas and concerns of our community's young people to the table, as well as taking action on creating opportunities while continuing to build our youth council's autonomy and youth leadership within our community. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora, Keisha. Can I thank you for your report and for the leadership that you're showing in Youth Voice and extending the reach of Youth Voice? And can I thank you for your leadership in acknowledging that attendance at college is important, but for taking the time out to be present at an important community wellbeing committee. So acknowledge that, and I'll just invite any members of the committee who want to make a comment or ask you a question. Is that okay?
I just want to acknowledge you and mihi to you. I think the way that you've structured that and the way that you've spoken to that and the inclusion and collaboration that you are demonstrating across all of the colleges and including with Te Puna Whai Matoranga is exceptional. I was really impressed to hear the way that you spoke about that and your steps ahead and the way that that's focused around the wellbeing and collective for everybody. I think I'm surprised we didn't give you a round of applause, frankly. So I think you're deserving of that. Yeah, karawi.
I just want to convey how important Youth Voice is to all of us around the table. If I could speak on behalf of us all, we understand that you are our future generations, and we hold the greatest of respect for our youth, because through you we hope that we will move forward into a much better world across the board. So on behalf of myself and the council, you will always be welcome, and your voice is essentially a framework and a very important part of the fabric of why we're here and how we want to move forward. So please pass on that message that the youth voice is exceptionally important and will always be. So thank you.
Keisha, I hope that's...
Sorry, that's okay. Kia ora, Keisha. I'm Kylie from Sport Manawatu. Awesome to hear your kōrero today. I think the breadth of the work you're doing to build the foundation for the rangatahi to be involved in Youth Voice, it's really on point, so well done. We've got a youth advisory group that works with our Sport Manawatu staff, and we're working to put together a youth fund that's really around supporting young people to be able to access putia, to do activations, anything around physical activity that connects to your mental, physical, social wellbeing. So if there's something that, if putting in your thoughts for potentially June, if there's something that your crew might like to discuss in terms of projects, or whether you'd like to connect with our youth advisory group and have some discussions around how you'd like to see youth fund shaped as well, we'd be really encouraging of that.
Kia ora, Keisha. Nei atu ki a koe a tautoko ngā whakaaro ki tō hautaki tērā. Just thank you for your report. I'm really interested. We are often in a space where we're trying to capture youth voice in and around the work that we do, particularly in social services, and understanding from your perspective what works best for young people. What's the best way to connect with you? And if you can bring those sorts of insights back to these meetings, would be fantastic. We're not trolling for stuff to tick a box for ourselves. It really is about genuine connection, and we do feel we're missing opportunities to connect with youth on the ground. And I'm sure you'd have a much
better idea of what would be effective for us. So, kia ora.
So, Keisha, I just took all that endorsement that you just received for your report, for the work that you do. The other members of Youth Voice pass on our thanks and congratulations for the work that you do. And I think we've just demonstrated the importance of connection and strong relationships with the feedback you've had from Kylie about that connection and from others who have commented. So keep up the great work. Enjoy your studies and back at college, but thank you again.
I'd just now like to welcome Mel and Leah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mel Baxter from HALT, Horowhenua Abuse Liaison Team. And today I'm actually representing two of the networks, but we'll start with Access and Inclusion. So our network met in February and again in April. At the February meeting, we had an honest discussion about some of the challenges affecting attendance and participation. These included scheduling conflicts, changes in roles, and the ongoing impact of reduced staffing and resources. While those challenges are very real, the discussion also helped us reset our focus and agree on a practical way forward for the network to achieve their priorities. So the network agreed that in 2026 we would focus on one measurable outcome at a time, starting with an accessibility audit of council community facilities. We felt this was a useful and achievable first step that can help identify practical improvements and create a clearer picture of where barriers still exist for people in our community. So we're in the process of working with CCS Disability to proceed with the audit, starting on the Live-In Aquatic Centre now that it's reopened after its 4-week closure for maintenance. At our April meeting, we heard from Live-In Riding for the Disabled. Their presentation gave us valuable insight into their work, the wide range of needs among the people they support, and some of the challenges they are facing, particularly around volunteer recruitment and succession planning. This started a robust discussion around similar challenges currently faced through our organisations represented in the network. The network appreciated hearing the unique type of horse-to-human connection that is actively helping to overcome challenges their diverse clients experience in a very different way. It was a helpful reminder of the important work happening in our community and of the pressures many organisations are working under. We also received progress updates on the improvements to the community directory, where organisations can now update their own information in real time. There was a discussion around future promotion of the all-terrain wheelchairs. In the 25 to 26 period, there were 52 bookings, which totalled 438.25 hours of use. This is across all of our, across our 3 all-terrain mobility aids. The network agreed to proceed with a fun communication and social media content campaign after the current accessibility audit has been completed. We are hoping they will be ready to go live for the warmer months to raise further awareness and ensure our community is making full use of these. Overall, the network is taking a steady and practical approach, and we look forward to sharing an update on the accessibility audit and continuing to connect with the committee's ongoing interest in accessibility and inclusion across our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel and Lyle, and great to have you here. Thank you so much for that report and for identifying that you're going to focus your resourcing on one particular thing at a time. I think that's a really wise thing to say, if I can say, and thank you for undertaking an accessibility audit of our council buildings. And I think we pride ourselves in being welcoming and accessible, but it's really important that there is feedback to support whether we are or not. So we really look forward to that. But can I invite anybody who has a comment, question for our members of Access and Inclusion? Report was incredibly comprehensive. And are you coming back? Are we having you for another?
Oh, it's me again. It's me again. Hello,
it's lovely to see. Like, it's really nice to have those chats, and just to say how important it is to have a very important part of our community here at those conversations, and really look forward to hearing your input and what you think we can do in terms of supporting you and the wider community. And that wider community is not just the disabilities that you can see, but many of it are the disabilities that you can't see. And so that broader strategic outlook is something that for me passionately is in the front of my mind. So thank you for coming, and love to catch up.
And I think, Mel, you're stepping right up to give us the Older Persons, but wait, there's more. Welcome, Older Persons Network Report.
Thank you. Yep, so me again. So our network also met in February and in April with a strong focus across both meetings on practical ways to support older people to stay connected, informed, safe and well in our community. At the February meeting, we heard about the Antenno app, which is the free and easy to use mobile app that keeps residents up to date with council related information. It sends notifications directly to your phone about things like water outages, roadworks, closures, consultations, and rates reminders without needing to check multiple sources. Users can select the locations that matter to them, such as their home or other key places, and opt in and out of topics depending on what's relevant. The app also allows people to report local issues such as potholes or graffiti, or provide feedback directly to the council, with reports going straight through to the appropriate team for action. We also received a community development update, including current grant rounds, improvement to the community directory, and the availability of staff support for funding applications. The network was presented with a recent Older Persons dashboard, which highlights key information around income, health, housing, and service use. There was encouragement for organisations to contribute to this, as it helps build a clearer picture of the needs within our district. Other discussions included the temporary closure of the Levin Aquatic Centre for maintenance, the importance of reporting footpath issues, and some concern around proposed rates increases, particularly the need for clearer information on how the rates are calculated. At our April meeting, the network confirmed its priorities for 2026. These are supporting health and wellbeing, reducing social isolation, and enabling older people to age well in place. We also adopted our terms of reference, which gives the network a clearer purpose and direction moving forward. We received further updates from the dashboard, which highlighted ongoing challenges such as low uptake of rates rebates, housing pressures, community safety concerns, and continued difficulty accessing a GP. Transport was another key area of discussion, particularly rising costs and the need for more accessible options, including subsidies and community-led transport. An update from Levin Budgeting Service showed increasing demand for financial support, especially among older people. In response, a budgeting workshop was scheduled to help build financial capability and provide practical support. Overall, the network has a clear focus on making our district more age-friendly. This includes improving access to information, strengthening support services, and responding to the real challenges older people are facing. We look forward to continuing this work and providing further updates as the year progresses. Thank you.
Mel, thank you for that update on what is a really important network of council, and we know that our older population is representative of something like 24.6% of our Horowhenua district community, so we appreciate the work that the Older Persons Network does in raising those issues and also in providing that education and information through the Older Persons Network, and thank you for bringing that information to Community Wellbeing. That's a very fulsome report and they are very active, which is wonderful, but if there are any comments or questions that anybody have for Mel in relation to that report, you're welcome.
It's me again. It's not in relation to the report, it's just in relation to having met Mel a couple of times. Just congratulations on your role that you've taken up this year, and you're doing exceptionally well, and I'm really impressed with all the hard work that you've actually been putting in, and that wider vision that you've been bringing to the table. So really looking forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
The time to be here and present. I'm going to hand over to Patrick now. I know you gave us a roundup of education Horowhenua, but I don't know if there are any other comments you want to make in relation to the report that's in front of us, Patrick. Welcome.
Thank you. And look, as we said, probably gave you an opportunity to talk about what we're up to in education Horowhenua. I guess I just wanted to use this opportunity to highlight two things. We want to add our emphasis to the discussion around public transport. You cannot engage in college tertiary education and transition into your first job in our district unless you have access to a driver's license. So it's a significant barrier to that first step from education into employment if you're not driving. And the second, I think, was with Project Lift now not going ahead, one of the four key components to that was a discussion around trauma-informed practice practitioners within the three colleges. And we are actively looking to how we can continue that work with the Project Lift funding now not going ahead, because that's a significant barrier to 15 to 18-year-olds to stay through to the end of their college life. So other than the updates, I just wanted to highlight those two areas.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for raising those issues, and particularly the challenges with dealing with trauma-informed practice. I know that there is a strong intent from colleges to track ahead with what resources they have, but that was a disappointing outcome, and also for reinforcing that matter about public transport, the strength of relationships and connection to understand the importance broadly. But does anybody have any questions or comments in relation to the education Horowhenua update that they would like to make? Or thanks, Patrick. I think if there's good detail that you've provided us today, handing back to you now, Laura, for the Youth Committee.
Kia ora koutou, me again. So the Youth Services Network, we did have a representative today who has called in sick, unfortunately, so I will be giving the update. The Youth Services Network have met twice, once in February and in April, and they've demonstrated a real strong collaboration between all the different organisations. So they highlighted coming together and actually visiting each organisation's premises so that you get a feel and a vibe for what their organisation is doing. Most recently was at the youth space. That was a really beneficial meeting to be held there because we just had Youth Week. So it was discussed to have Youth Week and the other organisations input into the one sort of avenue. So we had some Upako Tribal Authority staff come down. We had Councillor Young who did the tennis. I'm not sure if anyone's seen that on social media, but he definitely showed off his skills there. Alongside this, the network does continue to highlight some of the concerns around our rangatahi, particularly around vaping, the access to alcohol around popular places, that schools and that are quite nearby, so like the visibility of that for the young people. So there is a really clear appetite to build on what has already been done around these issues. So they're going to have a bit of a focus around some capacity building. We have talked about a de-escalation course, which we pulled through, and we had 10 members from different organisations attend that. We are looking to do a digital safety presentation. We've got Rob Cope. He is coming to present that on the 6th of August. So he talks about the safety of our children online. So we think that that's going to be very beneficial to our community. And we discussed the approach around the Te Ao Māori sort of values as well when we bring in these workshops. We're seeing some really positive work on the ground. The youth space continues to have a high daily engagement with the youth-led programs. There's a really safe and inclusive environment for a lot of the rangatahi who are attending each day after school or in the weekends. Challenges still remain around transport, gaps in the after hours sort of home support, the online safety and ongoing joys of vaping. So the network remains strong and connected. We've got some really committed members that are looking to get some actions out of this and improving the outcomes of the rangatahi here in Horowhenua. Ngā mihi.
Thanks, Laura, for bringing us that feedback on the report for the agencies that serve youth and who, I guess, collaborate with the youth voice, who are the youth, who give voice to what's happening in our community. Can I invite any comments, questions or clarification that people might like to request of Laura?
Just in terms of vaping, I'm really curious about this because it's a huge issue with my sons at school as well. Is the issue in terms of vaping about the ability of the youth to be able to buy those vapes, or what is that part of the reason? Because I know we have a few vape shops in Levin. What is the part? Is that part of the concern?
So I don't have the exact answer for you, but I can tell you that we're working with our compliance team for them to come and speak to the network, because there are some New Zealand rules that we don't have a say in. I know that for a fact. So I think it's more education around what the effects of vaping is, and I know that we just had a super great exhibition on it, Te Takiretanga Kura Haupo, over the last couple of weeks, I think it's been. So yeah, it's more the impact and bringing the awareness to that, because as a young person they think, here's me, probably unconscious bias, but they think it's really cool and it tastes nice, and it doesn't actually show the effects to them on the vape. They just look pretty. So whereas if you buy a packet of cigarettes, it's got the horrible teeth and that sort of thing. So I think it's bringing that into the schools and just the awareness around it.
Sarah.
Oh, sorry, I might have popped in just before you. Sorry. Awesome. Awesome mahi. Really cool to hear some of the priorities of the training that you want to see in that space. We can all to throw in the rig there if there was some stuff you wanted around co-design, so supporting adults to do co-design with young people. You probably have a lot of awesome people in that space already, but an option for the team if they'd like to see some of that training. I wondered about, a little while ago there was some discussion in the network, the Youth Services Network, around looking at cactus as a program for the region. Was there any more further discussions in that space, or has that kind of dropped off the radar a little bit in priorities?
That's all right. There is progression on that. However, I think there may have been some staffing changes with the organisation that has showed an interest, the staff member that showed an interest. So it's still in conversation. It's still, we bring it up with the around the table updates, but I can't give an exact yes, it's happening. But we can definitely bring it to the top of the priority list again and see where that stands.
I was just going to acknowledge the report from the youth perspective, and also highlight the common theme, which you've also done, Councillor Mason, around the transport issue, as Patrick raised in our youth space, and also the vaping challenges, and to acknowledge to you, Councillor, in relation to that it does no harm, would be perhaps if I can put that forward, that there's seen to be no harm in vaping, and yet of course it does have a percentage of tobacco related in it, so it has an addictive component, and therein lies one of those problematic spaces for our young people, our rangatahi. And so I'd just like to talk into that space as we see that through Oranga Tamariki as having an impact around education, access, homes, etc. as well. So just acknowledge that.
I think this is also really beneficial to have everyone around the table, is that the organisations are looking to do a collaborative output of, the problems. Recently there was something about stranger danger, and we don't really hear much of that anymore. So the network agreed, if there is a topic that needs to be put out there, we can all collaborate on that. So that could be something as well that the network could bring to the table next time on what we're working on to put out there.
Kia ora, Laura. Thank you. Just lastly, back to the vaping. You mentioned the compliance officers hoping to be able to talk to committee at some stage or another. I know that we did mention it last time, and that we would probably like to hear that sooner rather than later if we can understand better where council and committee can actually influence what happens, particularly around any sort of permitting that goes through council. Again, not completely across that, and I thought that we were hoping to hear some of that at some stage soon. So thank you for that. Also, just our home services, when you're talking about vaping and looking at ways to access information around the dangers of vapes and all, we have those services running out of our offices too. So happy to connect in that space with Ricky, who's our man. So yeah, feel free to give a shout. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Laura. We will make a note of all of that commentary and look forward to further updates on the work that you're doing. And now Julia is going to introduce the rest of the reports. And I just want to acknowledge that Matt Roberts from Manakai sent his apologies today because he's busy working with whānau at Hokio. So we acknowledge Matt is not here, but Julia, welcome.
Kia ora koutou. I'm just going to update on the smaller working groups of council, which are Horowhenua Former Refugee Support Committee. They have met twice since the last CWC and received a presentation from MB about the key findings of their annual refugee survey, and they commented on the achievements and progress being made in Horowhenua, in that many of our former refugees opt to stay in Horowhenua rather than move to other parts of Aotearoa, which is quite rare. MB has also confirmed 2 sources of funding to support the work the committee does. One is through the Mana Whenua and Council partnerships with Mo'opoko Tribal Authority and HDC on their Mo'opokotanga Day project, which is a cultural experience held at the local marae and is tailored to our newcomers. And then also the funding has been confirmed again for the Meaningful Refugee Participation Project, which supports opportunities for former refugees to gain opportunities and skills to participate in leadership opportunities in the community. So I said opportunities enough. And then on that note, our resettlement program has been shortlisted at the Local Government Tai Tuara Awards, and this project was about the support that's provided to newcomers, including the house blessings that Mo'opoko do, and we had a campaign at the local elections which was led by some former refugees as ambassadors to explain local elections to the newcomers, resources in their languages, and going into their spaces to explain what local governance is about. So we shall see the results of that later in June. The Vulnerable Housing Working Group has met 3 times, and plus an extra hui last week that was not included in this report. The group is currently hearing presentations from local groups in Horowhenua and outside of Horowhenua about the services that are available to support people who are either in insecure housing or not in housing at all. And the most recent hui, we heard presentations from the Tenants Union and then the Housing Advice Centre, and we're talking to them about what regular services they could provide in Horowhenua. The group has also developed a brochure on food and support in Horowhenua, which contact details of free meals, food parcels and crisis lines to be able to hand out in community, because unfortunately we are seeing an increase in rough sleepers and tents in our parks. So this brochure is like a first point of communication to help point people to other services. And at the most recent hui, the group decided to change its name from Vulnerable Housing Working Group to Housing Matters, so that the name better reflects the kaupapa and doesn't name people as vulnerable. The Horowhenua Mana Kai Network is continuing its work to meet the milestones of this pilot program, which is due to finish at the end of August. One of the key milestones is the establishment of a new food hub, and that will help drive more food to underserved communities. And two of the Manakai Network partners, Hope Hub and Mua Upoko, will establish the food hub at Hawkeo Beach, and with support from the Manakai coordinator, will shortly start delivering excess food to that community. The Manakai coordinator is also supporting community groups and schools to increase their capability in growing marakai and other projects that are sustainable beyond the end of the pilot. And other projects include the establishment of a seed bank at Shannon Library, planter boxes made from pallets, and workshops on how to use up excess feed jars. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Julia. Are there any questions or comments, discussion? Mike.
Kia ora, thank you. Great report. Just in terms of the former refugee support committee, I note at point 53 that the Red Cross is not retendering for that project. Is that going to continue in terms of funding? Do we know? But does that come through MB? They'll just need to retender for another provider. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
I just had a question, around the flyer or the booklet for where all the, is that, can that be made public, or how does?
And then distribute it widely, and we'll give it to all of our partners, and we can send it around here as well, because I think it's made so it can be printed easily by the agencies, and also any updates can be changed quickly too. So yes.
Sorry, I was just going to say too, fantastic that the work's been recognised, local government awards. So that's awesome. So well done. I think that there's obviously lots of communities that are doing stuff with refugee communities, but I think, as you noted, to retain them in this community, our experience that they arrive in communities, but then stay for a little while and then kind of congregate in other places around the country, or move to where there's bigger networks of their particular groups. I think to retain our former refugees in the Horowhenua community and then be recognised, I think is testament that both the council and the community are doing. So well done. That's awesome.
Thanks, Mike. I think we're very quietly proud of that and proud of the work that we support, and indeed in partnership with Ma'opoko and welcoming and more widely welcoming.
Scott told there could be some police recruits this day.
There you go. That's part of our strategy, Beth. How's that? We've solved a lot of problems today. Could I have a mover for recommendation? Oh, no.
Sorry, no. One quick part-time. Just wanted to check, and you mentioned that the Manakai Network funding finishing in August. That's not the network finishing though, right? Okay, good. All right, it's doing awesome stuff, so I just want to make sure we've got, okay, beautiful.
Great clarification. Do I have a mover for recommendation that the report 26170 Community Wellbeing Network support be received and noted? Thank you, Maggie, and seconder Katrina. All those in favour? Aye, thank you. We now hand over to Emma, who's been waiting quietly to bring us report 6.2 Community Wellbeing Dashboard with some updates, and they will appear on the screen. I believe she has a presentation for us. Welcome to the table, Emma.
I'm not going to read all my report because we are starting to run short on time, but so I will take my report as read, and I thought we would just flick through the slides that were on the dashboard and see if anyone has any questions about the data that was on the dashboard this time around. So yeah, at a local level, we had 4,443 people who were receiving a MATE benefit. This was up 1.23% on this time last year.
Sorry, just for you, Councillor Mason, if I can, just for full transparency, and because I know partners in the room, we pull I remind the table every time, we pull the data directly off of the public source. So just noting that live data may have shifted. So I need to put that out because I know our friends at MSD would like us to be really clear about that we pull it directly from their public website, just for clarification.
Does anyone have any questions on the income? No.
Can you just click your mic? Thanks.
Yeah, just to note, and MSD's not my area, obviously that's Paul, but if he would just note the economic kind of outlook and things that it's been holding. So there's tremendous work being done to exit people, but there's still kind of people coming in at the other end. And just if you've been looking at the economic outlooks and stuff and thinking that in the next quarter that some of those other things may flow through, so those numbers may or may not just hold for Horowhenua, depending on what happens. And of course, through budget, other pending announcements about public servants, quite a big cut depending on what happens thereafter election and that. So just, some other contributing factors, as well as really awesome growth opportunities in Horowhenua and some amazing, work being done that, just in terms of where we are with fuel crisis and other things, that we just need to keep our eye on those numbers and just how they're tracking. Thanks.
At the time of doing the dashboard, it was Hospice Awareness Week, which took place from the 11th to the 17th of May, and Mayor Burney had attended their AGM and brought back this data, their impact report, which was very timely to put in the dashboard. 26% of our Horowhenua community are using the hospice. And a very sad statistic there of 61% of people that end up in the Aotearoa hospice have a cancer diagnosis. Any questions on the hospice data? As Patrick said, we're making great progress in the community around employment, especially for our NEETs, and since compiling the dashboard, our Mayor's Task Force for Jobs program have achieved a further 4 outcomes, taking them to 25, and this equates to 71% of their outcomes. Total mobility scheme. This is funded through Mid-Central and NZTA and Horizons, and we have 1,824 of our community members enrolled for the total mobility. Currently, they receive a 75% discount that's going down to 65% on the 1st of July. And our passenger numbers have grown over the last 4 years by 40%. So it'd be interesting to do this data again in a year's time to see if that percentage difference has any impact on their total number of trips. But a lot of our older community are using this service to connect, and it would be very, very sad if that had an impact on them continuing to connect with their friends and their exercise programs and things. Did you have anything more on the total mobility? You said before?
Only the update I gave before was that Horizons retained the subsidy that they provided, that they didn't decrease it. They had the choice to decrease or retain the subsidy that they provide to total mobility, so that will have a lower impact on the users here. And only that we do have a high percentage of users, which I celebrate and acknowledge, but one of the things that I feel it does do is mask some of our need for public transport. So that makes me stronger in my advocacy for ensuring that we retain total mobility and add some other people. So thanks.
Housing register increased by 9 during the last quarter, and number of grants issued for special needs, number of applicants stayed the same, but the number of grants and the amounts that they needed were decreased. And an interesting one for the community safety one for this time around, number of crashes in Horowhenua. We're currently sitting at 30 for this year. But yeah, highest was in 2004 with 2024 with 298 crashes, and they're generally happening at the 50k mark. I'm always looking for data for the dashboard. If anyone has any interesting data that they would like to share for the next report, or any data that they would like to see, please let me know.
Can I thank you, Emma, because I know data is your thing, and I know that you love bringing these reports to the networks and to community wellbeing, and the diverse data today that we've had brings a different lens to the data that comes to community wellbeing. So thank you for that. And I think, Amajit, did you have a question? Well,
to see that whole, broader social determinants lens of everything that is happening and linked to this committee. I would like to have a further conversation around data of what we could provide as a primary health organisation, because health being the hot topic, obviously, a hot topic, and also how we've got data sharing agreements around various agencies. So bringing all that together. And I'd love to tap into your GIS mapping and all of those great things that councils have. So let's have a conversation.
Kylie and I were just having a conversation that it would be, for the data side of things, might be good for us as funders to provide an overview. I did give it separately to Mayor Bernie late last year, a sheet of what lottery and COGS funding has come into the region. But between Kylie, DIA, whatever that looks like, we're moving forward with the new stand up, and Neil from Eastern Central, that we'll have a conversation and we'll work on something to provide some information maybe for the August meeting.
For me again. Just wanted to acknowledge the report, love the data also, and then query what we're going to do with that as an outcome. Also to acknowledge in relation to total mobility and the impact of the decrease in funding and what the consideration might be as a representative group back to, in terms of the impact that additional cost will then have in the reduction on social cohesion, connection, etc. And further push, total pull around the opportunity for public transport to meet into that space. I just really wanted to acknowledge that and the usefulness that data provides us when we're able to put it into purpose like that?
My understanding is the data helps to inform decisions we might make and work that we might generate as a committee. So that's what the data is for. Some of it is for information sharing to understand our growth and the projections that sit there, but certainly with the total mobility as a council and a group, we don't have any control over that. We have an advocacy role with Horizons, who are one of the funders along with NZTA, and certainly through the networks, older persons, access and inclusion, I know that will be part of the agenda for their next meetings, for disseminating information about changes to the system, and that the changes are less than, the impact will be less than could have been incurred if Horizons hadn't voted to retain the portion of that they pay. So yeah, I acknowledge Horizons for holding strong on that. But yes, that's my understanding, and if officers hold a different view, I'd love to hear it.
No, through you, Councillor Mason, that's correct. So the intent of the dashboard is to bring information to this table for agencies around the table to understand trends, but also as a committee, collectively identify any work streams. And that has happened in the past where there's been certain, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, where some data's come through and the committee have had quite an interest in that, and therefore that's essentially started a piece of work. So we'll continue to bring that data and potentially in the future give some ideas around or identify some concerns that the committee might like us to push to make some progress or some action.
So with that, can I have a mover that report 26171, Community Wellbeing Dashboard report, be received and noted? Thank you, Sarah, and a seconder. Thank you, Kylie. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Emma, we're back with you for item 6.3, the last agenda item for the committee, which is the monitoring report. Welcome. And
again, just going to take my report as read, but we do have a couple of pictures that just highlight the work that's happened across the region in the last quarter under each of our priority areas. So Anzac Day took place on the 25th of April, and Horowhenua District Council supported 12 ceremonies to take place across the district. And as the pictures show, it was great to see so many of our young people getting involved in the ceremonies this year, and our Horowhenua College Service Academy standing alongside our soldiers there to pay their respects. Under Connected Community, Neighbours Day took place on the 14th of March at the Live-In Adventure Park. This event is hosted annually by Horowhenua Neighbourhood Support, with support from Council, and the day includes bouncy castles, entertainment, a free barbecue, and the chance for the community to connect with all the many great services that we have here in Horowhenua. Mark's favourite, health and wellbeing, and his recent project was our new and improved aquatic centre, and the pool was closed for a month, and there was never going to be a good time to close it, but we needed to make sure that the facility was going to remain safe and fit for our community for many years to come. And the pool reopened on the 11th of May with a flurry of customers eager to get back into the water and get back into their regular fitness classes. And we've had lots of great feedback on the changes, haven't we, Mark? Julia's already highlighted our work around our refugee and welcoming communities program. We're looking forward to hearing the results at the end of June. Two of our other council projects were also finalists, but in different categories. So HDC punching above its weight. The new year obviously didn't start too well for the district with a number of weather events. But one good thing to come out of the bad weather was we stood up some green waste sites around the community, and for people to dispose of their trees and branches, and then that was all mulched back down and given back to the community for their use. And this is, I'm in the welfare team, so this is our little texine tree that we have. We were all on standby for a couple of weekends in a row, and just wanted to show, how readily available all of our team is whenever there's an emergency. Many of our contracted services have wrapped up for the year, including our Waituiri Beach Surf Lifesaving Club. And yeah, while summer didn't play ball this year, they still put in a record 3,672 lifeguard hours and undertook 92 preventative actions to keep our community safe. An additional highlight was in April we found out just how much our Horowhenua community are animal lovers and really care for our four-legged community members, and we put out a call for blankets and our community really showed up. Rob there had to make 4 trips to come and collect all the stuff that our community donated, so a big thank you to our community who came through for our four-legged friends.
Yeah, I think Councillor Mason, just quickly through you, it's one of my favourite when reviewing the reports around making sure that we have a commitment to our health and wellbeing of our four-legged community members as well. So it's the first time it's made an appearance at this committee, but I think it should be highlighted.
Thank you so much for providing that delightful update and pictures. I think it's always value to this monitoring report, and we take the report as read, but I invite any questions or commentary, discussion. We just acknowledge and thank you, Emma, for providing that summary and the update on where we are heading with the strategy. That said, that brings us to the conclusion of business and the conclusion of matters before us at Community Wellbeing. Humbly, I thank each of you for the contribution today. We are very grateful for the discussion, for the connection, for the strong relationship building, and for the commitment to the strength of wellbeing in this community, the communities of Horowhenua. We at Council have a lot of work ahead of us. As you know, we have change facing us, so we're working incredibly hard in the background to do what we need to do as councillors and our staff team, and we know that many of your organisations face that as well, but what remains at the heart of it is that we stay strong and working together for better outcomes for community wellbeing for all. So thank you so much for being here today. I want to acknowledge officers who have sat in the back rows there, and I want to acknowledge that Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Keto have joined us and appreciate your interest in the work of this community and the members